Welcome to Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs, the podcast that dives deep into the stories of trailblazers who shape our world. Chris Baran, known to many as Coach Chris, is a global ambassador, award-winning educator, and founder of Trainers Playbook, a company dedicated to transforming technical education in the beauty industry. His mission to help stylists and educators succeed faster with less stress and more confidence. With decades of experience, Chris has worked hands-on with thousands of professionals, leading training workshops, coaching educators, and presenting at major global trade shows. His signature associate training systems have helped turn stylists into six-figure earners while dramatically improving education programs across salons and academies. As a master of his craft, Chris holds some of the industry's most prestigious titles: Canadian Hairdresser of the Year, Mirror Awards International Stylist of the Year, NAHA Avant-Garde and Master Stylist, and a Lifetime Achievement Award. His Abbey Award for Best Educational Program reflects the lasting impact of his training systems, with testimonials calling them a game changer, confidence booster, and time saver. Chris has invested thousands of hours and hundreds of thousands of dollars into mastering education, but his goal now is simple: to help others grow faster without the pain, time, and costly trial and error he went through. Today, we're excited to tap into his journey, knowledge, and tools for building the next generation of elite stylists and educators. Please welcome Coach Chris Baran.
Both Sue and I are so excited today that we have you on our podcast, Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs. And as the audience got to listen to your bio in the beginning, today we're going to go through a little bit deeper about your journey, your philosophy, and the mindset behind your work. And so we welcome you to this podcast.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on, and thank you.
Yeah. So, Chris, tell me, you dedicate your whole life to elevating educators and stylists, and you were inspired to create a book called Trainers Playbook. Can you tell us more about how that came about?
Well, thank you. First, I'll be very candid with you. I think, as most things in life in general, that on my side anyway, I find that I've fallen into. I always call it falling into everything that I do, rather than being purposely on point. I didn't want to become a hairdresser, but I fell into it because my mom was one. There's a whole story behind that. I'll leave that for other times. But with the becoming a trainer was, again, I kind of fell into that. It was. I think what I was blessed with. I mean, I love hair. I always go. My first 2 years in the business, I was not what you call a great hairdresser. I was more interested in parting my brains out, and I had an interesting thing where a client said, "Don't cut my hair today. I'm going to Montreal to get a good haircut," and that kind of shifted my career. And that was after I pulled the scissors out of the back of her head mentally. But because, that was embarrassing, it was frustrating, and so on, but she changed the flow of my life. That when I talk about falling into things, that's kind of where that came from. So I fell into hairdressing more by purpose of that comment, because I figured it was time to do the proverbial, how would you say it, in stuff that you can air, poop, or get off the pot. Yeah. And that's where I got hooked on education. But one thing I think that I've been blessed with, and I didn't know it at the time, I'm really good at systematizing stuff. And I went through a couple of businesses as a hairdresser, owning my own business, not knowing what the hell to do. It was just, I wanted to start a business like most people do, had no idea what to get into. And I realized, because I kind of fell into that hairdressing side, loved it, fell into the beauty business side and loved it. And then I realized that people were joining me because they, as hairdressers, because they wanted to learn from me. And I realized that as an owner really quickly, that if I didn't have something systematized, and here's exactly what we're teaching on these days. And that's, I think that gift that I had is what really helped me. So the part of falling into that was the fact that it was even in the 80s, I started to systematize everything that we did in our trainings. Was it right? No. My manuals were all typed in capital letters, but they were there nonetheless. Yeah. And I think that's the first thing, is that number one, it was just being able to systematize. And then number two, where it really came about and where Trainers Playbook really came from was, there's a multitude of areas in there, but the Trainers Playbook was, we can talk about that on another thing, but I'm part of a group of where we have 30 beauty schools. And so it needed systematizing. So it started off very early with learning how to systematize, but then learning that I had to do it for a couple of reasons. Number one, for the salon that I was in. Number two, when I worked for a manufacturer and creating the systems for design, then taking that system and turning it into an associate accelerator program, and then turning that into a design program that could be taught in schools. Yeah. So that's kind of where that came from. And the reality from, if I had to break it all down, yes, we talked about systems, but where the idea really came from of making it, I'm just going to say en masse, not just in one location, came from people that would come up to me when I was on the road teaching, and they would say, we want you to come in and train our people. Yeah. And I said, well, there's two things to that. Number one, to do that amount of training, you probably can't afford it, and it wouldn't be worth it. And then the second part was, I can't do that all the time because I'm too busy. Yeah. And so that's where the idea of how do we take the systems that we had in place and how do we systematize it so anybody can use it. And I've always talked about the way I went through it at the beginning. There's always three things that you can do when you want to put a system together, is that you can do the DIY, do it yourself. You can, well, I'm going to raise up that finger, but that's for those watching, that's not the right finger. So I'll lift it to these other two. That was do it for you or do it with you. Yeah. And so we kind of opted to doing it with you, but there's so many problems that were happening in our industry, and still are. You know, I always say owners are the ones that are. They always feel it's my shingle is above the door. People are coming to me. That's what the habit I fell into. Therefore, if it's Harry's Hair Haven that's doing the training, then Harry says, well, it's my name, therefore I need to do all the training. And that's really not the correct way of doing things. You have to take yourself out of that scenario. Yeah. So that's kind of where it came from, was just people asking me to come in and do the training.
I am interested to know your perspective in terms of what is the biggest mistake you see educators make when they're training associates, and how does your system sort of correct that?
Well, first of all, thank you on that. And here, I'm going to, is it okay if I just get real candid with people here?
Yeah.
Right now?
Please do.
Yeah,
Please.
and it comes from this year I'm celebrating whatever the hell it is. You figure it out. 1967 is when I went to beauty school, so whatever long I've been in the business from there.
You must be in our class.
Yes, well, yes. It's, yeah, we'll leave that all alone, meaning that we're all just over 55. But you know, here's what I'll take you back to my story, because obviously, for those of you, if you're just listening, you don't see the gray hair, you just hear this mesmerizing voice, ha ha, wink wink, nudge nudge. But the reality is this: I went to training at a certain haircutting place back in the 70s. It was, you know, and I'll put it to you this way. Here's where I would say the mistake that people are making right now is you can't train the way you were trained. And people are going back to train the way that they were trained by somebody else, be it 10, 15 years ago, or much earlier than that when I was. When I was trained, you know, here's the reality. If you train the way you were trained, for me, it was a very hierarchical training. The people that came in and said, here's what you're doing wrong, here's what you're doing right. You know, and it was also, then you're going to do it exactly how I tell you to do it.
Right.
When you have, from me traveling all over the country, is that we're hiring Gen Zs right now. And quite frankly, I think that it's wrong for people to say, I hear them everywhere saying, well, you know, you don't understand. It's like, there's no type of people that are out there, and they're entitled, and they don't want to work, and they don't want to work on Saturdays, and they only want to work in a certain amount of time, and they want to have a balanced lifestyle. And I said, well, you know, every generation changed, and it's the new generations that are taking off. And we can't train the way and expect them to receive training the way we trained and the way we received it. So my point is to people that is, if you're an educator or if you're in a salon and you're the owner of the salon and you expect people to be trained in the same way that you were trained and expect to honor that. In other words, when we trained, you had a 3-year apprenticeship. And you swept the floor, and you folded towels, and you did all of that for 3 years, made no money, and you can't train people like that anymore. They'll say, oh, I'm going to go work at McDonald's. Right. So And the part is we can't label Gen Zs as just that type. We've got to change the way we think. We've got to change our mindset to the training, not to accommodate, but to understand where they're at. They live in a swipe right, swipe left. You can tell how much of that swipe left, right I do, because I don't know which way is good and which way is bad. But the reality is they live in a swipe society where if it's not happening long enough, they'll say fine. Yeah. If you have a baby boomer, as I am, and if you sit in a training and you don't like the training, you'll still be respectful and sit there, and you might say, well, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with what you're saying, but you're going to sit there and you'll sit till the end, and then you'll leave and just not take any of it on. Gen Zs are so much into your face where they want that gratification right away. And if you don't like it, I mean, let's face it, you do it, I do it. And if we don't like something that we're watching on YouTube or Instagram or wherever that is, we'll just swipe. We'll just keep moving forward. That's what they've been trained on. And so if you're doing something and you don't connect with them right away, they're going to move on. And we just got to realize that you can't train that way anymore. That's why you have to break everything down, make it smaller, easier to grasp pieces, so that I can get the piece of information I want and then go for the next piece of information. Correct.
You know, you talked about systems, having systems in place. I think, you know, Sue and I came out of the Zoto's era, you know.
Sue, Pivot Point.
Yeah.
And all those. So to us, you know, we already have a system because that's what we learned. But you're talking about the new generation. And if you don't change the way you think, you're not going to get anywhere. And I've learned that because I have a daughter. I think she's my youngest one, well, not my youngest one, but one that's 40 years old. And she's the one that tells me, yeah, right, exactly. And she tells me, Mother, you can't say that to this person because they don't receive it like you received it. You know, so that mindset you have to change in order to get the best out of that individual, you know, and it's difficult, especially it's difficult if you don't change. And my husband, a while ago, I think yesterday, was talking about my granddaughter, 22 or 24 years old. And she started a business, and it's self-serve. It's outside of her house. She's selling cookies. She's selling bread. She's selling all kinds of stuff. But you go to Venmo, is that what you call it? There's a QR code. There's no money exchange at all, unless you want to pay cash. There's a little box. But everything is done through that system where no money's exchanging. So my husband tells me, well, how did that happen? Well, how does that work? So I told him, I said, you have to change and know what's being out there in order for you to grow as an individual. Yeah. So take us back to, you help stylists create six figures. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I'm going to before I jump in, and I'm going to jump into the six-figure earners of the day and how to get there. But you said something that was really, truly profound, is because you were talking about we have to do things differently. And it brings me back to where I think the shift happened in my career as a trainer. Because I talked about I was training people the way I was trained at that time.
Exactly.
Right up, and I think you have to have an epiphany of when something in your brain clicks and you go, my God, I'm the one that has to change.
Right.
I remember sitting in a class with one of my teachers, and he's become a mentor. He's a good friend of mine now, Blair Singer, and he's part of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad group. And he was sitting in the classroom, and I was taking some training from him. And and when you learn, you learn that you have to give information, and then you have to have an exchange, so that you find out what you said, what was it that they comprehended. Right. I mean, simple language was called debriefing. I always thought that was a spy term. Yeah, because they would always take the spy in the room to say, we have to go in for debriefing. I thought maybe there was a torture chamber involved or something. But it's nothing more than just saying, what'd you get out of that? What did you retain? And so on. And I remember him asking the group, he said, what did you take away from what we just talked about? And I remember raising my hand, and I remember standing up and still a little befuddled by it, but I don't know what befuddled means, but it always sounds really great. But I remember saying, Blair, so what I heard you saying, what I got out of it was, it's not what we say, it's how we say it. So, you know, when people are teaching, it's like how you're getting your message across, how you're being empathetic, how you're being understanding of where they're at in their training process, and how they're receiving the information based on the fact that the trainer knows the information, the learner generally does not. And if you miss one step, they'll get caught in loops and they don't understand. And then the educator gets frustrated because he said, I said the damn thing. Why aren't you comprehending it? And it's not that. It's about them. We have to think of how we say it, how they received it, and how you take what they didn't get and give that back to them so that they clear up that little loop before you move on.
Correct.
And I think that was one of the biggest things that helped me change the way that I was as a trainer, which was more authoritarian, this is the way you have to do it, to more of, I've got to change to listen to what, how do I change what I am so they're getting the message rather than me. For those of you just hearing right now, I'm drawing these circles around my head going, revolving around me, and it's all my, I said it, it's my job is to teach, your job is to learn. Right?
Right.
And we have to shift that. We've got to make sure that they understand what this is. Yeah. Is that making sense so far?
Yeah, definitely.
And so now having said that, as a trainer, we have to be able to provide education or provide a program that helps people get better at what they do. And let's face it, if we're training people how to become better, if we just say, I want to make you better at haircutting or color or finishing or whatever that is, front desk duties, that I am still a 12-year-old in mind, so I just have to, I did say duty. It's a male thing, I apologize. But you talked about the six-figure earner. And again, the six-figure earners now are not the six-figure earners that we had yesteryear, right?
Correct.
Because if you think about it, there's always, like they say in real estate, they always say there's the 3 rules of real estate. You know, location. And when we were trained, or I'll put it to you, when I was trained, particularly in that authoritarian sense of being training, hair quality that you did came from discipline.
Correct.
I think since COVID and since Gen Xers have got involved and saw the reality of the world, listen, that all of a sudden I was home and my parents were home. I had all of the quality of life around me. I did most of my communication, via my phone, and I could get my information I wanted for there. I think it has to be a little bit more complex than one thing said 3 times. And to me, that when I study that, let's talk six-figure earners for a second. That six-figure earners doesn't just mean $100,000. It means $100,000 plus.
Yes.
I was talking to somebody the other day that they have people that are working for them. Now catch this, everybody, if you're listening and watching, grab onto your chair right now. I promise you maybe a little bit of pee is going to come out when I say this. It's going to startle you so much. But they were talking that the particular person was taking home $325,000 a year.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the kind of six-figure earners we're talking about. So it can range anywhere from just over 600 to much, much more.
Correct.
And I really think that from what I'm doing, and this is coming out of my brain. I have no statistical proof on this, but from my gut and what I hear and what I see, you have to do a little bit of all of those. It's still, instead of it being discipline, it's a skill. Because when we did discipline, it was what we called skills and drills. You did drills over and over and over again till the skill got embedded in your brain.
Yes.
And you could do it without thinking. As simple as, and when you're cutting hair, doing simple things, little things like push, pull to get really in a precise line when you're cutting. That's the skill part. But we all know that from our era, people that were skilled, highly skilled, but didn't have a great personality, didn't provide a great salon experience, they still made a boat full of money, right? You don't get that anymore. People are that's where so first one is skill. Second one has to be that you have a positive experience while you're in that chair. And it's not just a positive experience, but you've made them feel that it was more than just doing a haircut. You were solving their problems, solving their hair care, their at-home service, their old at-home products. You were helping to solve problems. And then the last one is delegation. And that's where I find that if you're not delegating, and I'm not talking from the owner, and yes, we owners and leaders need to delegate. We know that. But I think we forget that as an employee, somebody that's a part of a team working at a station, is to delegate. People, if you're working behind a chair and you think, and I'm wrapping my arms around that imaginary guest going, "You're mine," right? Nobody else can touch you, right? Think that when I talk about delegation, I think of it like this. I mean, we've all been to the doctors. A lot of you young whippersnappers, I'm going to yell out, "Hey, get off my lawn here right away."
Yeah.
But all young people that are out there right now, the Gen Zs, the people that are out there, you haven't had any malady yet. You haven't had to go to a doctor for aching bones or whatever. But the reality is if you think about when you go to a doctor, you know, I've been to a doctor several times in the last while. My wife has as well. But when you go in there, I think if you think of it this way, that doctor is like a planet. And I'm remembering back from my science studies right now that Saturn, I think it was, I can't remember exactly, I think Saturn has 272 moons, little tiny things that revolve around the planet. If you're just a planet on your own, you can survive without moons. But the reality is you're only going to make whatever amount of money you can make in 1 hour. You're serviced by how much you can do in time-wise. Now, if you go to your doctor, somebody checks me in, somebody else checks out my weight. I lie if they don't put me on the scale. And somebody comes into the room, somebody else comes in, and they check my vitals. They do my blood pressure. They check for whatever that thing on your finger does that tells you how much air you're taking in. They ask you about all the things you're taking, and they do all the questions. And then somebody else comes in and says, "Okay, good. Here's what's going to happen next." And then the doctor comes in. I see them for 5 minutes. They take in whatever that my malady is. They make a recommendation. Somebody else comes in and they said, "Here's what you need to do. We're setting up an appointment at this time," and so on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Right.
If you go in to get whatever, I just had my rotator cuffs done in the last while. When I go to the hospital, 10 people take care of me that revolve around that doctor. I see the doctor for 2 minutes before the lights go off from the anesthetic, and then I don't see him again. I am in recovery. Other moons travel around me, do all the work. I'm hoping this is creating a picture in your brain of that as a stylist, you're the planet. You don't have to have everybody else. You need other people revolving around you that do the grunt work that you don't need to do, whether you want to or not. You make more money when you delegate those other things out to people that are paid a lower salary than you are, so you can take on higher services and a higher ticket price.
Correct.
That's the way that you make six-figure earners. So, I mean, I hope that wasn't a too far off and I didn't mix metaphors too much in there. But to me, that's the one thing that it really is all about. Everything is about delegation. So if you want to be a six-figure earner, number one, delegate out all the other stuff so you can do higher ticketed services.
You know, Chris, if I can just piggyback on what you're saying, I had a small chain of salons, but I started as a stylist with one salon, blah, blah, blah. And you're taking me back to what was early in my career, my corporate philosophy. And it would be myself and 6 stylists, and we'd have a salon meeting. And I'd say, I've got something I want to discuss. I said, if your client comes in and you treat her really nice and you give her a great haircut and you're consistently, quality of work is there, she leaves and she says, "I love Kathy at blah, blah, blah salon. We'll just call it Sue's Salon. But if she comes in and she has a bad experience, she leaves and she tells her friend, don't go to Sue's Salon. They're terrible over there. Now, you might say as a stylist, well, what do I care? You know, I'm getting mine. But let's step back. Everyone needs new business. Everybody needs add-on services. Everybody wants clients who are going to spend more money. You do that through working in a salon that has a great reputation. So we have to create that culture. If you're working through the salon, you see a client sitting there waiting. Has someone offered you a cup of coffee? Would you like a bottle of water? It doesn't hurt to be pleasant to the people that are in your workspace. And if we all do that for each other, it's a better place for us to work. And we'll all make more money. And that came out of being an owner and a stylist who became so frustrated by having to deal with negativity. Well, how do you start to root that out of there? It starts with the core philosophy of what kind of environment do you want to work in? What kind of environment do you want to be in? What kind of environment do you want people to know about where you work? And that's exactly what you're saying, Chris, and it just took me back to that because it's so true. It's at the base, and that's the only thing. And I will not speak pro or con about it as part of our industry today, but I always wonder in people who rent a booth where they're there by themselves. I do think there's so much to be said for interaction with people, particularly in a society today where we're isolated. So I'm not saying pro or con, but and we talk about this. I am still in the beauty industry, but have not worked behind the chair, owns salons for 2 years. And I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who owns a very big, extremely successful salon. I'll give a shout out. Ron Bradison at a new in Madison, Wisconsin.
You go, Ron.
Ron goes to the salon every day. And he said, I'd miss the jazz. I love coming in, hearing the music playing, seeing the young kids, seeing when you create that kind of environment, it's exciting. And that's what really hooks us on this business, I think.
You know, Sue, you bring up a really good point there. And for anybody that was watching, you've probably seen me take a pen and writing stuff down because I'm at the age, if I don't write it down, I'll forget. But I think that there's one of the things that I see in our businesses that some people are doing it really well and some people are not. And I've kind of migrated through my career where everything was about technique. I was a designer through and through, and then I became an avant-garde guy through and through. And I was in the 80s, I was a perm guy through and through. Yeah. As I've gotten a little longer in the tooth, my journey has really become of what do I need to do to help other people rather than just helping them with a haircut. And that's where a lot of the things that I'm doing now are based on leadership, based on helping to train other people personally with personal development, as well as train the trainer and so on. And what tweaked me when because you were talking about what it was like, and I think that I think you used the word culture. One of the things that I got from my teachers when it came to about leadership and how do you lead a team is you can't lead a team of people if they have different values.
Yeah.
My challenge to people that were owners was to sit down, establish what your values are. If it's honesty, integrity, like I can list ours, we did it with our team. We have honesty, integrity, family, abundance, which is another one, as well as imagination, creativity, all of those things that you can put down as values. And when you have your team, make sure that they know those are your values and what are their values. Because the reality is, if your values don't align, you are going to have chaos in your business because your values are the driver for the business. They're the drivers for the relationships within the business, and they're the drivers for the loyalty and the longevity of the business. And that's why values are the first and foremost thing. And then you have to have and make up your own code of honor that you have in the business, and they're generally about problem-solving stuff. I was recently at a salon, and while I was at several doing this, one was a group of salons with a chain of salons. I've done others in schools where they had to do it with their students and with their staff. What are the problems that come up? Like if let's say I'm not talking policies and procedures. I'm talking a code of honor so that you can talk to one another if there's a problem that comes up. Right. In other words, we're in a business together and Chris does something. And normally what'll happen is, somebody says, damn Chris, he's always doing this and the other thing. So, but nobody will come and talk to Chris because you don't want to, excuse my language, piss Chris off because Chris might be the highest earner and you don't want to upset that person because then my money ticket goes away.
Yeah.
If you have the same values and you have a code of honor, and in your code of honor you have something that says willingness to be call and be called if you break the rules, that you can do it in the right way, come up to Chris and say, hey Chris, look, we value you here, but I have to just say that, now I want you to hear what I'm saying, your behavior of XYZ is not acceptable. We value you, Chris, personal. Yeah. We don't appreciate and don't like your behavior. See, so now it's not attached to Chris, it's Chris's behavior. Right. So having a code of honor, and I don't want to go science project on you with that, but having codes of the way that you can talk before conflict arises gets rid of all of that crap. It allows people to talk to one another, and when we say call and be called, if somebody calls me on it, I got to say, you know what, you're right. Yeah. I'll change. Yeah. And I think that's part of it. Because what I loved when you said about that is value, and it's about having having value and having a code of honor in your business that everybody has to abide by. Every newcomer has to read it and sign off on it, so that you say, this is my code as well. It's just like in the Army, leave no person behind. Yes. It's things like that, or your code that you live by in there. And part of which, one of the codes that you have, and we have in our code of honor, we have everybody must sell. Yeah. And what I'm finding in our industry right now is that if I'm talking way too much, and you can tell me to get off my damn high horse here and I'll stop. Great. But I think that there's this feeling, and I had it when I started out in the business. I didn't have any money, so when somebody said to me, Chris, you got to sell some retail, then I would say to them, I'd say, yes, boss. But then I would say, I don't have any money. If somebody asked me to buy this bottle of shampoo at a very pricey amount, and I would say, I don't have the money, so I'd be causing harm to that person if I sold them this bottle of shampoo. And I think that I took it as selling as a 4-letter word. I was doing harm to people. And right now, and I can't remember who told me this, it wasn't mine. I wish I could remember who told it to me. I would give them credit, but like I say, my lagging years have made me forget that. But that person said, substitute the word sell with care. It's not a 4-letter word, but if you ask that person, do you care about your reputation? Do you care that the client's color is going to fade sooner than it should? Do you care about the reputation of the business? Do you care that this client is coming back to you or not? And if you substitute the word care in what you're doing, then you realize that all of these things that are necessary, that they do on things they like, such as recommending that they come in next time for a color service or an add-on service or whatever, they have that, but they forget it when it comes to selling, which they associate with retailing. Right. And that's another avenue just that they can have. And I would say, as I said at the beginning, one of our core values is family. If you want to take care of your family, you need money. And I'm a capitalist. I will warn everybody on that. I'm a capitalist. I've had none and I've had lots. I like having lots of money way better than having none. No. I'd sooner be laughing in my Porsche than I would be crying on my bicycle. Right. So I'll let that one sink in. You see, that's where it's about. If you just substitute the word care, I care about you as a client. I'm willing to do and recommend anything that is best for you. I went in to see my cardiologist the other day, and he said, Chris, okay, you want to stay alive longer? Lose some weight. He cares about me. Did I like hearing it? No. Did he like saying it? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But the reality is, if you care about somebody's health, well-being, financially, or whatever, then you've got to help them along.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
So, Chris, we're going to change gears a little bit. And you have received a lot of awards and accolades from Canada. Are you from Canada?
Yeah, you betcha.
Hey.
Stop it right there. I'm going to hit you with my mucklucks, and I'll load them up with some pemmican. So,
Oh, God. I love Canada. Canada, United States, and internationally. Can you tell us what award has meant the most to you and why?
well, that's a really interesting question. And you know, I'm gonna do a little, not a deviation. I'm gonna be straight up on all
Okay.
of them were great. If I could substitute the word, which one was most impactful for me, because I loved it. I mean, I was so appreciative when Canada gave me a Lifetime Achievement Award, and
Yeah.
And for those of you that are out there thinking to going into NAHA is an incredible award to take it, and I loved getting those awards, and so they were meaningful to me. Now I'm going to shift back to the one that was most impactful for me, and it was when I was living in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I was sitting in a distributor show. Another person, Kent Gould, who was the owner of the business, and Art Erickson, who is the salesperson that came around to speak with me, etc. And I was sitting in their multi-manufacturer show, sitting in the audience, and Kent walked on stage and said, "We've only got 2 entrants in the haircutting competition." And I had just got back from taking some cutting courses, and I went, "I'll take 3rd." So I went and got a model that afternoon. I left right away, got a model, got one of my clients, got her hair all colored, went back the next day to be in the competition. And apparently there was 30 some other people that were willing to take 3rd as well. and we went into the competition. I couldn't get out of it by that time, but I got 2nd place. And you know what? That's the one that impacted me the most. Why? Because at that moment I went, if I just put myself out there and take a risk, then I can get things that I wouldn't have taken if I didn't take that risk. And that propelled me into becoming a competition nerd. Even when I was in the salons, all of our staff, I encouraged them. I said, "Let's get together. We'll help you work on your things. And we'll go after the competitions." Now, if you said why and why was I doing it? Well, I'm going to take you to another coach of mine, Jason Everett, and I pay for weekly meetings to have a business coach, and I advise anybody who doesn't have a coach, whether you've got one that can help you, whether they're going to do it for free, which most, if you get a good coach, they're going to charge, but it's going to make you better. And we had a personal conversation about where am I going in my career, etc. And I talked about competition, and I talked about having people appreciate, like why do I step on a stage? And I may speak out of turn here, but I think that you guys all came from Zotos, so you know what it's like to be on stage. You know what it's like when people applaud for you. You know what it's like when people come up and say, "You changed my life," or you did something that was amazing what you did, or when he asked me that question of why do you do that, and I had to have a very frank conversation with myself, and I said, probably validation. It is if you want validation, like and what he put it to me, he says, like, look, I want you to think of the difference in this. When you step on stage looking for something, applause, love, getting rid of fear, whatever that is, you do differently than when you get on with no return wanted. It's like a debt. If you do something and you're lending somebody a nickel and they don't pay you back and you get all PO'd, versus lend them the nickel and then just don't ever expect it back. And if you get it back, you get it back. And then I don't think I was getting quite the picture. And he said this quote to me, and it was like somebody hit me between the eyes with a 2x4, because he said, "May my true impact forever be obscured from my vision. May my true impact forever be obscured from my vision." I went out the next weekend, I was on stage, and I went, "I'm not going here. I don't care." And take this in the right way. I don't care if I get validated. I don't care if they applaud. I don't care if they come up to me after. Let me rephrase that. I don't want them to come up to me after saying that was a great class. That the impact that I'm making is what's the most important part. And if I let it be obscured that I don't think about that, then I just do what's necessary. Yeah. And you do the best work that you can do in the circumstance. It may not be perfect, it's just the best you can do. Exactly. And that's become my motto in life right now. So this may seem like a far swing, but when you ask me what is the award that I got the most, and that's what I was always striving for, is that validation, when I realized only recently that's not what it's about. And I'm not saying people don't enter competitions. That's not it at all. There's so much business savvy inside there, but do it for the right reason. Yeah. Do it because of the work that you're making. So you can look at your work and okay, if you win an award, great. But if you look at the award and say, damn it, that's a fine image, then it's there.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, it's easy for me to understand why so many people describe you as a game changer. The information you've shared with us here is thought-provoking. It's very thought-provoking. And there's so much there, Chris. I could just listen all day. I would like to know, what are the core elements? Because there's so much that make your program so effective, do you think?
Wow, that's they always say that, I can't remember if it was Einstein or whatever that said, if you can't describe what your product or what your theory is about to a 7-year-old, then you don't understand what it is that you do. So that's a mouthful, and it's really hard to explain. However, everything that we've done in putting these programs together, and just when I teach. So first of all, just understand, I've had 50-some years of screwing things up. And there's nothing that teaches you like screwing something up. So I'm not saying that everything I've done in my life is right. I'm saying that most of what I've done is wrong, but then you have to go back, and here comes the word debrief again, spy novel stuff. That you have to say, what am I doing that's right? Keep doing that. What am I doing that's wrong? And change that. And I think before this, a game changer. Well, first of all, thank you for that. I've never thought of myself as that. All I want to do now is my dad always said, he was a hardcore salesman. And he said, you've got 40 years, because he came from that area before the baby boomers, where it was you worked hard, you put it all out there, and you have 40 years of working, and then you retire. And he always said you have 20 years where you do nothing but give, meaning you have to buy your house, you have to buy your car, you're buying everything, you're raising your family, and then he said, then you have 20 years of getting. You've got your house, you've got your home, you've got your car, you've got your savings account, and everything now is bonus, so you're getting it back. And that's kind of that. We were estranged for quite a while, so he told me that much after and when I was already into my 40th year. But I find what I've done now is my last, whatever that's going to be, 20 years or more, is to give back. It's not just what I'm getting, but what are you giving back? How are you helping to change people's life? I keep thinking, if there was only people around that could have helped me when I needed it, when there was nobody around to help you, and everything was competition-based. No, I don't mean competition as the awards. I mean competition as you had somebody that was beside you that was a hairdresser, you were competition. And you can have friends in the business that can help you along. So what I'm going to talk about first is about the program, why I feel the program is so effective, but I want to talk to you about the problems that are out there first. And I talked a little bit on, I think I used the word DIY, do it yourself. Most associate trainings are built on a DIY basis. I did it the very first time. I said, here's what I've learned. Here's the way I wanted you to do a blow dry. Here's the way I want you to do a haircut, a finish, a color, etc. And we did it from that aspect. And quite frankly, stuff up. And that's all I did is I made stuff up, but they were just the things that I knew at that time. So I had a very limited focus. And I find when I go to salons, that's what I see is they're giving the limited focus of what do you need for that salon as opposed to a broader industry level. Nothing wrong with it. It'll help you survive. And so that was the first problem that I see is people that are doing it themselves. It's very limited, and it's coming from that making stuff up aspect. And then a second problem that I see is that, and this is probably going to ire some people, I'm going to say if you're doing what I'm about to say you shouldn't be doing right now, is carry on until you can change it. Owners should not be doing the education. Owners are generally, they're the top ticket price makers. And if you're taking time away from your job as teaching, to teach, I should say, rather than hiring somebody, training that person, I don't mean stop tomorrow, I mean hire somebody, take one of your proteges they're taking all of your teaching and get them as your educators, your education managers, whatever you want to call them. And I find that either, and what I'm seeing right now is either the owners are getting burnt out, so that's the second problem, just getting tired of doing the same thing over, not seeing any rewards for it. People are leaving after I train them, and I'm just getting burnt out. And I'm also getting that feedback from owners who are saying they have educators in their businesses and their educators are burning out. They're saying, if I have to teach this blow dry one more damn time to a new person and then I teach them and they go away and they get burnout. And then the third area, and probably the one that I find is one of the worst problems that happens, is there's no accountability within the business. And I need to be more specific with that. There's no accountability when it comes to, Sue, LuLu, you've trained me on something. I need to be assessed, and there's no assessment process to prove that I can do a minimum quality standard other than just by me watching one or two heads. And I think those are the problems. So why do I think that the program is so effective that we've made? Is it perfect? No. Are there lots of people out there, lots of training programs out there? There's some. But when people understand that the average salon, associate, apprentice, whatever you want to call them, and when I talk to people, they say that the average one, like when I was training, it was like anywhere from a year to 3 years. I'm talking to salon owners now, and they're trying to get it in 6 months. And if they realized all of the factors involved, that you've got to pay them, the money they're losing from doing the training, because you've got to do it during salon hours now. They're not willing to come in after hours as we did when I was a youth or trained. It costs you $18,000 to $20,000 on average for every associate that you're training over a 6-month period. Now you can extrapolate that over 9 months, and it's not rocket science to figure out. It's just much more than that. So that's the first solution, is to understand that you've got to get them trained faster. You've got to get them on the floor faster, financially contributing faster. They don't have to be trained in all of the areas. You don't have to be a great colorist, designer, finisher before you earn a spot on the floor, because that's generally the era that I came from. You had to be able to do everything well, then you earned a spot on the floor. If somebody can do a blow dry well, and you meet a minimum salon standard that we talked and prescribed to in the accelerator, we say, they've reached the minimum salon standard. Is it one that Sue and LuLu could do? Is it that 20-year mark where you can do it almost perfectly? No. But is it 80% of that? So everybody agrees that when that person walks out of the salon, they go, damn fine work. That meets our quality standard. Now, I call it a minimum, but if it was at 75%, whatever that is, then you still have to do more blow dries till you can hit that blow dry standard, that haircut standard, that color standard on whatever discipline that you can do. If you cut a bob, damn it, then you earned a place behind the chair. I have people that I've trained on here, and they said they take them through the program and they make them do it 10 times. And if they can do the bob after the 10th time, they can do it 10 times, and they got the bob, you can do bobs in the salon, and we'll book you in to do haircuts. I'm just saying bobs in general. That makes sense? So you might not be able to do color yet, but you can do a blow dry, or you can do a haircutting, or if you can do your foils properly, then I can book you with foils. Does that make sense? That's the only way you're going to retain a Gen Z.
Yeah.
They have to be able to see that they can financially contribute and earn their way up to where they're going to have some money taking home. And by the way, I wanted to add in that people that are making $100K. I was talking to Daniel Mason Jones, and he said that he has a person that came on as an associate. He, after the training, and literally 6 months later, working 27 hours a week. 27 hours a week, 3 days a week, she was making 100, taking home 100 grand. You see, it's by getting them on the floor, starting to earn as quickly as they can. That's the number one thing that you got to do. That's the solution behind it. The second thing is becoming an accountability partner with the associate. You're not the one beating the drum. You're not the one that is saying, hey, here's what you've got to do within the next 3 months, and here's your plan, and here's your course. You become an accountability partner. I'll give you an example. What we tell people, and there's 2 parts to our associate training. We have a jump start, the ones that all the fundamental stuff you got to be able to do to help somebody else so that they can take the higher ticket we talked about before, help the seniors. Ideally, you want to get them through that in anywhere from 3 weeks to a month. Okay. Then you have your next part, which we call the indispensable design, whether it's in color design or whatever. Take them through the courses. Now catch this, not the ones that they're weakest at, the ones they're strongest at. So if they're strongest at color, get them into color first. Leave design alone until they've done that. Then get them on the floor doing color. Then go into design, or vice versa. Does that make sense? It'll get them on the floor the fastest that they can, and you become their accountability partner. You say to them, you'd say to Chris, okay, Chris, you've been through the hiring process. You have to go through these 2 phases, phase 1, and we want to get you helping and earning a spot, helping other people. How quickly do you want to get through that? And you can tell them, we've done that in 3 to 4 weeks is generally our average. What do you want to do it in? And Chris will say, well, I want to do it in 2. So I'll say, okay. And then every week I'll come up to him, I'll say, and this isn't an in-the-office meeting. I call them drive-bys, meaning, having a cup of coffee, walking beside them, saying, hey, Chris, how's the training going? Oh, it's going great. I'm right on track. Good, awesome, keep up the work. Hey, Chris, how's it doing? Well, I'm falling a little bit behind. Okay, good, congratulations. Note I said, I didn't say you bad person. I just said, great. For all the things you did right, congratulations. Now, let's talk about what do you need to do differently? Do you still want to try to finish that up in 2 weeks, or do we need to elongate it? And they'll say, well, I think I can do it in 2 weeks, but next week, I'm going to really bone up on it. Okay, great. Good job. Or Chris will say, you know what? With everything I got going in my life, I need to elongate it. Based on this last one, I want to elongate it for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Okay, but I keep checking in. That makes sense? So I become an account. The solution is what this helps you to do is become an accountability partner where you're not beating yourselves up making the training program. I'll say to them, okay, here's your training program. And let's say, just for easy math here, there's 9 lessons that you've got to get through, and there's 3 weeks. You've got to do those three in each one of those. You put together what that plan looks like and present it to me. You see it? So we believe you take the onus off of yourself as the owner, the education manager, the artistic director, and you put it on the person. They now take ownership over it, and you become an accountability partner. I can check in. If they say 2 weeks, I'd check in them daily. How's it going? Did you finish your program today? Good, honest, give me a high five. Celebrate the hell out of them when they're doing things right, and pull them aside privately when they're doing things wrong. So that's number 2, is become accountability partner. That's what it helps you to do. And then the third thing is what I loved about our program, and it took us about a year or so to get this right, is we created assessments. So you assess the people when you're hiring them. You assess them as they're going through the program, not at the end, and it's not just you have to be able to do and pass, be able to do the assessment of whatever technique it was, etc. And you have to pass those. And once you pass them and you do it a few times, check mark. Now you can go and earn that part. You can't do that unless you're assessing them. And they have a benchmark to do. And when we say that you have a minimum salon standard, we say if you're doing a blow dry and a curling iron, and then that curling iron means a root tong, just meaning a barrel curls. Here's a page of what our minimum salon standard looks like. So you're not just saying, well, it didn't look right. Well, what is it supposed to look like? So you put pages together in their debriefing journals and their journaling of make the standard that you have to come up to and surpass. So that's what I'd say it's this, is don't make stuff up, get it into a proper program. That's why we put the program together in easy bite-sized pieces so that everybody can watch 1 to 2 minute videos, go do something, come back and do another 1 to 2 minute videos. And then be their accountability partner, and then assess them and give them a mark that they can reach.
Oh, Chris, it sounds like your program is awesome, because you hit the nail on the head. You're assessing them at the end of each program that they're doing, which is great.
Well, Chris, people love to hear about the nit and the grit of the beauty industry, the technical things, what's available out there. But what they really love most is learning more about our people. So we like to kind of pull back the curtain and do a little thing called rapid fire, where we just ask some kind of personal questions. We ask you to answer it as quickly as possible. Our audience loves it, and it helps them to get to know you a little better. So are you ready to play?
Let's play. Put me in, Coach.
I love this question. What's one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
Probably, I'm an introvert. People see me on stage. They see all of that.
No.
They see me talk when I'm in these. I don't become a different person, but I have a different persona. I can put on my super cape, but I'm an introvert. I don't like when I'm at home. It's my wife and we just hang. And I'm not even big on going to restaurants unless I have to. I want to be at home and just be with my fam.
Yeah, that's cool. What song gets you hyped before a big stage presentation?
I would have had a hell of a time answering that, except that two people that I just love, and they were DJs that always were at all of our shows, and they started this one that I don't know if you ever heard the song "Papa Was a Rolling Stone."
Oh yeah.
And there's a remix. There's a remix out there. It's just called Rolling Stone, and I can't remember the people that did it. I think it's available. It's a remix, and it's got a really fast downbeat to it, and it's just it's called Rolling Stone, and it's become my theme song.
For any of us who've lived out of a suitcase in the beauty industry, appropriate song.
And if you see that Papa Bear is my nickname, what everybody calls me, so that's why they came up with Papa Was a Rolling Stone.
Wow.
Well, I ask you, just remember that it's the song. Don't listen to the words and think that's what I do.
I always ask this question for LuLu. So, when you're getting ready for a big day, coffee, tea, or something stronger?
Well, the something stronger is always for the end of the day. My dad always said, never drink while you work. But as I have here, I'm a tea granny. So part of the Brit in me, or the Commonwealth, I should say. I love coffee, but coffee doesn't like me. So I'm a tea granny.
Okay, good answer. Mountains or beach?
Beach.
To recharge.
Every time.
Beach. Come visit me in Florida. We're down here enjoying the water. Yeah.
I have very fond memories of Florida.
Well, all of our friends are up there shoveling out in the Northeast and Midwest. If you weren't in hair education, what might you be doing?
Everything I do is eat and sleep and breathe our hair and our beauty industry. But one thing I discovered is when we had, for a Christmas project at a manufacturer I was working for, we had to do a thing, and I sculpted the Grinch, and we made a mannequin out of it, and I sculpted not only Grinch, but I did it as Jim Carrey doing the Grinch, and it turned out really, really well. And so I'd have to say, if I couldn't do anything with hair, I'd sculpt.
Yeah, cool.
Or cook.
Yeah. I love getting to know you a little bit better, because we just so enjoy your spirit. You can tell that you're a giving, nurturing, well-grounded person. It's the human soul. Thank you for sharing with us and artists, icons, and entrepreneurs. And I hope we get to have you back again. And
Definitely. Can you tell the audience where they can find you?
If they go to trainersplaybook.com, if they go to my Instagram handle, and if they have, and I always say, go to my Instagram, follow it, and it's at Coach Chris Baran, CoachChrisBaran. And if you just go there, and if you have issues that are coming up in the industry, just let me know. I do lots of either A, in our podcast, B, in a lot of the videos that I put out. It's helping to people solve some of those problems.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. I know our listeners out there are going to leave with fresh ideas and inspiration. So thank you so much for being on our show.
It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
Be well, Chris.
And you.
Be well.
Wow, what an episode. That wraps up another exciting edition of Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you're leaving inspired and ready to chase your dreams. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode over at youtube.com/artists, icons, entrepreneurs, as well as Facebook at LuLu Benavidez, on IG at LuLu Benavidez, at Evolve Hair Solutions as well. And don't forget to visit our website at lulubenavidez.com and evolvehairsolutions.com to stay updated. Until next time, keep dreaming big, creating boldly, and making your mark on the world. Thanks for listening, and take care, everyone.